Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to decode an ancient, totally mind-bending philosophical revolution. We are exploring the Madhyamaka school of Buddhist philosophy, which is a framework that literally reshapes how we understand existence itself. Using direct source materials, we're going to navigate concepts that have challenged the greatest thinkers for nearly 2 millennia, all to uncover what some call the illusion of reality. Okay, let's dive right into this and challenge your fundamental perception of reality with a pretty provocative question. Do you actually exist independently, or are you just a collection of conditions? I mean, it sounds like a strange thing to ask, right? Most of us move through our daily lives completely certain of our own independent existence and the independent existence of the objects around us. But today, we're going to see how an entire school of thought systematically dismantled that exact assumption. To get there, we need to start our journey at the macro level to understand the foundational goal of all ancient Indian thought. Section 1. The ultimate human purpose. Grounding our analysis in academic study notes from the Indira Gandhi National Open University, we can see that Indian philosophy is deeply human-centric. It's incredibly pragmatic. It's not just a collection of abstract ideas meant to be debated in some ivory tower. It was designed with a very specific, practical objective in mind for actual human beings. Enter Purusharartha. This is the entire teleological purpose of human beings within these ancient frameworks. The whole philosophical matrix was designed with one ultimate goal, and that was to alleviate or completely eliminate human suffering and to achieve supreme liberation, often called moksha. Every single school of thought in ancient India, despite their massive fundamental differences, essentially had their eyes locked on this exact same prize. Section 2. The Great Philosophical Divide. Now, what's really interesting here is how different thinkers chose entirely different paths to reach that ultimate goal of liberation. On one side, we have the Āstika tradition. In everyday language today, people sometimes use this to mean theist, but in classical Indian philosophy, it strictly means accepting the absolute authority and sanctity of the ancient Vedic texts. On the exact opposite side, we have the Nāstika tradition. These are the rebel or heterodox schools. They either completely rejected or entirely neutralized any allegiance to the Vedas, choosing instead to forge their own independent paths to uncover the truth and attain enlightenment. Looking at this map of the landscape, you can easily spot the 6 orthodox Āstika schools at the top, like Yoga and Vedānta. And down at the bottom, the 3 Nāstika schools, Jainism, Buddhism, and the materialist Cārvāka school. This perfectly sets the stage for us to zoom directly into the radical Buddhist philosophies, specifically because of how they chose to solve that ultimate human problem of suffering without relying on the Vedic tradition, because within this Gnostic rebellion, a massive philosophical earthquake occurred around the 2nd century CE. Section 3. Nagarjuna and the Middle Way. Meet Nagarjuna. He was a South Indian monk, widely considered the most important Buddhist philosopher after the Buddha himself. In fact, he's often revered as the second Buddha. He is the master architect of the Madhyamaka, or Middle Way school. His most famous text, the Mula Madhyamaka Karaka, completely dismantled every single existing metaphysical theory of his time using incredibly concise, piercing logic. To really grasp Nagarjuna's genius, we first have to define the primary target of his logic, which is svabhava. This literally translates to own being. It's the concept that a thing possesses an inherent substance, a fixed essence, and exists entirely by itself, independent of anything else. Remember that gut feeling we talked about at the very beginning? That assumption that a rock is just a rock, existing entirely on its own? Well, Nagarjuna argued that this belief in svabhava is an absolute illusion. And immediately contrasting that, we have sunyata, or emptiness. This is the beating heart of the Madhyamaka school. Sunyata is the highly radical doctrine that absolutely all phenomena are empty of svabhava. Even the most fundamental, atomic building blocks of reality do not possess inherent independent existence. Nagarjuna was essentially proving that nothing exists in a vacuum. Everything is entirely reliant on other things. Section 4. Emptiness is not nihilism. Let's do a critical reframe here, because Western thinkers famously and repeatedly misunderstood this concept. When you pit nihilism directly against dependent origination, it triggers a major aha moment. When Nagarjuna said everything is empty, early Western critics threw their hands up and accused him of nihilism, which is the depressing belief that absolutely nothing exists at all. But that is completely wrong. Emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means dependent origination. It means things definitely do exist, but only as interdependent conditioned phenomena. It's extreme interconnectedness, not some dark, empty void. Let's think about a physical table for a second. When you look at a table, it appears to exist entirely on its own. It's just a table, right? But break it down. It depends entirely on the wood from a tree, which needed soil, water, and sunlight to grow. It depends on the metal nails holding it together. It relies on the carpenter's labor to build it. It even depends on the human mind's concept of what a table is meant to be used for in the first place. Remove the wood, the nails, the labor, and the concept, and the independent table simply vanishes. Without its parts and conditions, the independent object does not exist at all. It is empty of inherent tableness. Section 5. The Doctrine of Two Truths. Now, to prevent our brains from completely short-circuiting at the idea that everything is just an endless web of conditions without any solid foundation, Nagarjuna developed a delicate balance between two ways of looking at the exact same reality. First, there's Samvriti Satya, or conventional truth. Think of this as our fast-paced daily reality. It's the highly functional world where tables hold our coffee, chairs support our weight, and we interact with other people. It is real enough for everyday purposes. But then we have Paramathartha Satya, or ultimate truth. When you slow down, this reveals the groundless emptiness of it all. It's the profound recognition that all of these conventional things totally lack independent, inherent existence. The crucial takeaway from this quote by Nagarjuna is exactly how these two truths interact with each other. You can't just escape to the ultimate truth and completely ignore the physical world. He explicitly says that without relying on conventional truth, the ultimate cannot be explained. The two truths are co-constitutive. You absolutely must find the ultimate truth by correctly understanding and navigating the everyday conventional world. They are just two sides of the exact same coin. Section 6. A Practical Guide to Living. So, why does this incredibly dense second-century logic actually matter for your life today? Why are we even exploring this? Well, think back to our very first concept about the ultimate goal of Indian philosophy, the alleviation of suffering. Far from being depressing or nihilistic, realizing that everything is interdependent is actually the ultimate psychological tool. Shunyata literally breaks our habitual mental patterns. When you realize that a stressful situation, a demanding job, or even your own personal identity doesn't have a fixed, permanent essence, it loosens the grip of personal attachment. It actively eradicates the aversion and ignorance that cause human suffering. It is a highly practical, day-to-day guide for letting go. We're going to conclude this explainer with a final thought to ponder, bringing this all directly back to you. If nothing possesses inherent existence and everything is dependently originated, does that undermine your everyday experience, or does it actually enrich it? Does knowing you are fundamentally interconnected with absolutely everything and everyone around you make your daily life meaningless, or does it make it infinitely more beautiful? Thank you so much for exploring the middle way with us.